All right, guys. So today's video is over day 2 of solving by factoring. So this is the second part of the notes that you saw yesterday in class. So really what we're doing is we're just solving these different quadratics. So the first example that we have here is d squared plus 3d equals 28. And if you notice, the difference with this problem compared to the problems we saw yesterday is it doesn't equal 0. Right now it equals 28. And what you have to do before you can solve any of these problems, you need them to equal 0. Okay, so what we have to do is we want to make the side where the d squared is not, or wherever the square is, we want the other side to be 0. So in this problem, we want the right side where this 28 is to be 0. So to do that, we need to get the 28 to the other side. Well, this is a plus 28, so we want to subtract 28 to both sides of the equation. So then what happens is this becomes 0 like we want, and if we rewrite this side here on the left, you end up with d squared plus 3d minus 28. That minus 28 can't combine with anything because none of those are like terms. So you leave it like that and then set it equal to 0. And now we're basically to where we were yesterday. So now what we need is two factors of 28, or negative 28, sorry, that add up to a positive 3. So if we look at our factors of negative 28, we want the bigger number to be positive. So you've got 1 and negative 1 and 28. You've got negative 2 and 14. And then 4, negative 4 and 7. And I'm going to stop there because those are the two we want. Negative 4 plus 7 is a positive 3. So we're going to write our factors as d minus 4 and d plus 7 and set that equal to 0. And then from here, we want to set each of these equal to 0. So what we want to do is we want to take d minus 4, set equal to 0, and d plus 7, and set equal to 0. So we add 4 to both sides here, so d is 4, and we subtract 7 to both sides here, so d is negative 7. So your answers are d is 4 and d is negative 7. So the difference here is we're making sure we have our quadratic set equal to 0. Okay, so once we get to this point, that's what we did yesterday. Okay, the next problem we're going to look at looks like this. So this one's a little different because we've got stuff all over on both sides of the equation. Now, the key thing here is you, again, need everything to be on the left side because this is where our x squared is. Wherever the square is, you want to leave that. So we need to get this x and this plus 28 over to the other side of the equation. So we want it to go from the right side to the left side. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did. So if we start with this 28, we want to start by subtracting the 28 to both sides of the equation. So when that happens, we've got a 0 here, and now we have x squared. A positive 8 minus a 28 is a minus 20, and then we still have the x. So now we need to get the x to the other side, because again, we need this to be 0. So it's going to be the same idea. This is a plus x, so we want to subtract x to both sides. So then what you end up with when you subtract x to both sides is x squared minus that x, because it can't combine with anything over here, minus 20 equals 0. So then at this point, we need to come up with our two factors. So we need two factors of negative 20. That when we add them together, get a negative 1. So we've got 1, negative 20, 2, negative 10, 3 can't go into 20, 4, and negative 5, and those are the ones we want to use. So our factors are x plus 4 and x minus 5 equals 0. So then if you set both of those equal to 0, you got x plus 4 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. So you subtract 4 to both sides to get x to be negative 4. Here we add 5 to both sides, so x is 5. And those are your two solutions. Okay? So again, your equation has to equal 0. You have to get to this point in order to solve these. So let's look at one more example. So here's our last example. We got 3x squared plus 7x plus 13 equals 9. So we want to start by getting this to be 0. So we need to subtract the 9 to both sides of our equation. So we end up with a 3x squared plus 7x, and then a 13 minus 9 is a plus 4 equals 0. Now we factor. So this is a problem where we're going to have to do our a times c. A and c are 3 and 4, so that's 12, positive 12. So all of our factors are going to be positive. So now we need to find factors of 12 that add up to a 7. So we've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. There's what we want. So we rewrite the 7x as 3x and 4x. So we've got a 3x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Then we want to factor by grouping. So here's our first two terms. Here's our second two terms. The GCF in the first two terms is a 3x. The GCF in the second two terms is a 4. So if you pull out your GCF, we have 3x. Left in the parentheses is an x plus 1. And then our other GCF is a plus 4. Left in the parentheses is an x plus 1 equals 0. So your factors are 3x plus 4 times x plus 1 equals 0. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to erase this over here and use the side. So now we need to take our two factors and we need to set them equal to 0. So our two factors are 3x plus 4. Set that equal to 0. And x plus 1, set that equal to 0. So over here we have to subtract the 4 first. Then we need to divide by 3, so you get negative 4 over 3. Just leave it as a fraction. And then over here we just need to subtract 1 to both sides, so we get a negative 1. And there are your two answers. So that is it for solving quadratics by factoring. You have a little worksheet that goes with the stuff for today. What's actually going to happen is the homework that you were supposed to do last night and the homework you're supposed to do today, I'm actually just going to check that all on Wednesday. So have both of those done come Wednesday. We'll go over both of them on Wednesday, and I'll check them both then. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys soon.